Hi, it's Ari,
And Abby.
and today we will be talking about a career in healthcare.
We're going to be speaking with Melissa, who is a NICU nurse in the hospital.
So, Melissa, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the medical field.
Sure. So my name is Melissa. I am currently a neonatal nurse practitioner. Prior to that, I was a NICU nurse. So I was a NICU nurse for about 11 years. And then after that, well, while I was a NICU nurse, I went to grad school. And then in 2011, I became a neonatal nurse practitioner.
That's really awesome. So today we're just going to be asking you some questions about what you think or how the medical field is and your experiences. So our first topic is education and training.
So, how long did you spend in school and training?
So when I went to become a nurse, I did 4 years as an undergrad. So I went to college and majored in nursing and got my Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. So that was all that was required for that. And then when I wanted to go back to be a nurse practitioner, I did about 18 months of school, and that combined actual classroom work and then clinical work. I did that part time because I was still working full time as a nurse. So if I was not working, it would have taken me about 12 months, but it took me about 18 months for grad school.
Oh wow, that's very interesting. Um, so our next question for you is how hard was the course and how big was your workload?
So nursing school, my undergrad degree, it was a lot of work. I remember other people that were in my dorm and were doing other majors. They didn't have much work, but all the nursing majors, we were at the library every night from about 7 to midnight.
Oh
So that was
wow.
definitely a lot of work. Yeah, it was crazy. And then for grad school, also, it was a lot of work because you had to do a lot of journaling about what your clinical day was like. We had to write a lot of papers. Obviously, we had regular exams, and then working full time on top of that was a lot. So my days that I did have off, I basically was just doing schoolwork all day long on the days that I was off.
Wow, that's a lot.
It was a lot. I said I'm never going back to school after this, but I did actually go back. And do another. I did a postgraduate certificate a couple of years ago for quality improvement, healthcare quality improvement, and patient safety. But that was only 4 courses, so that wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, definitely not as bad as all the rest of that. That's
No,
just so
no, for
much.
sure. I know. I'm definitely not going to school after this, though.
So, how much training did you need after college?
So I was able to go straight to the NICU as a new graduate nurse, which is not always the case. A lot of times you'll have to work on a medical surgical floor as a nurse before you can go into a specialized type of nursing. But I got lucky and was able to go straight in. So I started working as a graduate nurse, and then probably about a month after I started working, I took my boards. So you have to get certified. And I took my boards, and luckily I passed on the first time. So then I just kept working. They usually give you about 12 weeks of orientation when you start as a new nurse.
Okay.
So you're paired up with other nurses that are experienced, and they teach you basically everything you need to know. And then once you finish that 12 weeks, you're on your own, but there's always people around, that you can ask questions of and things like that. And then when I became a nurse practitioner, same type of thing. I had to take my boards, although for nurse practitioner, you have to take your boards before you start working as a nurse practitioner. So I
Okay.
did that, passed that exam, and then they paired me up with some other nurse practitioners and did about, I think, 12 weeks of orientation again for
Okay.
that job.
Wow. So definitely you get the training that you need, which is important. That's very good.
You do.
So
Yeah, and you never feel completely ready because it's just, it's scary when you're new to a job and new
oh
in
yeah.
healthcare. But like I said, there's always other people around to ask questions to and help you.
Well, that's amazing. So our next topic for you is what your career is actually like. So our first question is, what do you do at your job?
So my current job as a nurse practitioner, I take care of critically ill infants. So I will go in, I will examine the patients. in the morning, and then I will come up with what changes we're going to make for the day, if we're going to make any changes at all. I will talk with the nurse who's taking care of the baby, and get like, more of a sense of how the baby's doing. Because when I examine them, I'm only seeing them for a brief period, but the nurses are with them 12 hours at a time because their shifts are
Oh wow.
12 hours long. So their input's really important. And then I will write my note with my plan for the day, and then I'll put orders in so that all the things that we want to do that day, the nurses will have orders to be able to carry out that plan. And then usually I'll update the family of the baby. And then other things that I do is I go to delivery. So when a woman is delivering a baby, if there's something that they're worried about, I will go to that delivery. So like if there is a baby obviously that's premature, we'll definitely be there. I go to all the C-sections. So if a woman's having a C-section, I'll go in there, and once she delivers the baby, I'll take the baby and examine the baby and make sure everything looks okay.
Okay.
Sometimes if we go to a delivery, depending on what's going on, the babies need to come to the NICU. So if that happens, then, obviously we bring them to the NICU. We give them all the things they need, like if they need oxygen or if they need an IV, things like that. So that's basically my day. It's different day to day, depending on what's going on. Some days there's no deliveries, some days there's lots of deliveries. Some days, we have more babies than others, but that's typically, like, in a nutshell, what my day looks like.
Wow, that's awesome. So, out of all of that, what do you think your favorite part about your job is?
I like seeing the babies that I take care of get better and eventually go home to their families. So it's really neat to watch, a baby that weighs less than a pound or maybe just over a pound grow, grow and be able to achieve all the milestones that they can get to a place where they're able to go home with their family.
Oh, that's so special. That would just be such like something amazing to watch.
It
Um,
is. It's really neat.
so like on the other side of that, like what are some big stressors at your job?
Definitely when a baby is sick and maybe isn't responding to the treatment that you're giving. So that's definitely stressful. When we go to deliveries, sometimes the babies, when they come out, they need a lot of resuscitation. And that, is stressful for sure because you don't know that all the things that you're going to do is going to work. Uh, Unfortunately, not all babies make it. So that is definitely stressful. The babies that aren't able to make it, it's sad and stressful. So I would say that part of it it's the biggest thing. Just, if a baby that has been doing well and getting better and then they get sick again, that's the most stressful part.
Wow, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's very sad and it's very difficult for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So, do you have a crazy story that happened at your job that you'd be willing to tell us?
Crazy story. Oh, geez, there's probably many of them. I don't. There's nothing in particular. I think just knowing that you never know what you're gonna what's gonna happen when a baby delivers. I think it's not really a crazy story, but you always have to be prepared for when a baby delivers that they might need a lot of help and a lot of resuscitation. Sometimes you hear a history on the mom and you are very worried, and you go into the delivery room and you're prepared to have to do everything to help the baby, and then that baby comes out screaming, crying, and is completely fine. And then other times you may go to a delivery and at that point everything has been great, and then that baby comes out, needing a lot of help. So I think just never knowing what to expect, but always being prepared for the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's well, thank you for all that information because that really like gives a good insight into your career. So our last topic for today is just some personal questions. So
Okay.
if you could go back in time, would you still pick your career?
So I would. I think the hardest part of this career is that you have to work weekends and nights and holidays. So that's the only part about the career that's really a drawback is that when everyone else is off, a lot of times you're working. If there's a big snowstorm, you don't get to stay home. You have to go in, somehow get there, no matter how much snow. So those parts are the parts that would make me think like maybe I should have done something else. I did just do for the last 3 years, I stepped away from the bedside and I was doing a quality improvement role.
Okay.
And while I enjoyed that and I had a normal schedule where I did not have to work weekends or holidays or nights, it really found that I missed the bedside and I missed being a nurse practitioner. So I recently, just like a month ago, switched back to being a full time nurse practitioner. And I am really happy that I made that decision.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you got like the different perspectives and were able to see that. That's really awesome.
For sure. Yeah, I thought I'd really like having a normal schedule. And then I was like, I miss having, when you work weekends and all that, sometimes you get 5 days off in a row and when everyone else is working. So you get to do things that, you get to go to the grocery store, go to the beach in the summer when everyone else is at work. So that is definitely a perk.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
So, do you think the
Yes,
amount of education and stress of your job was worth it?
I do. I think, school is, no matter what you do, school is going to be hard when you're in it. Uh, but it definitely pays off if you have a career that you love. So, if you're going to school for the right reason, I think if people are going into something just because they want to make a lot of money or whatever the reason, but they don't have passion for it, then it's not going to be worth it. But for me, I really enjoy my work. So it was worth all the schooling. You get through it. And as long as you love what you're doing, then it's definitely worth it.
That's so good to hear. So like our last question for you is just if you had to pick a different career, what would you choose? If you can
That's a
think of
good
one.
question. Yeah, so I think I always thought I would like to be a teacher.
Okay.
I think, I love kids, and so I think I would have enjoyed being an elementary school teacher. That was one other thing, I thought about when I was picking what I wanted to do with my life. I also am always intrigued by the criminal justice system, and so
Okay.
I always think that maybe some sort of career in criminal justice would have been interesting.
Yeah, that would definitely be something cool. It'd be a way different side compared to nursing.
Very different. Yes, for sure. For sure.
Well, thank you so much for answering all of our questions, and thanks so much for listening to our
Sure.
podcast.
Special thanks to you though for answering like all of our questions. We really appreciate it. Like we got a lot of very good information from you. Um,
Of course. Thanks for having me.
yeah, of course.